All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for The Dan Bongino Show.
Good morning and welcome to The Dan Bongino Show and happy St. Patrick's Day. Take a look at it, right? We're doing very well. I got along well with, we call him St. Patrick. I call him Pat. He's a tremendous guy. And we made a beautiful deal together. I said to him, Pat, you know, you look at the gold at the end of your rainbow, and it all belongs to me. You don't take one, not 1 shilling or whatever you call it. You don't take the doubloon. We have a lot of doubloons. Everybody loves the doubloons. But I said to Pat, it's all my gold. If you take it, we're going to have a lot of problems. He said to me, sir, we don't want problems with you, sir. Not after everything you've done. So we got along well. We made a beautiful deal. And you take a look at, you may have heard of him, Lucky the Leprechaun. He's a great guy. He said to me, Laddie, they're after me Lucky Charms, Laddie. I don't know what we're going to do about it. I said to him, Lucky, you've got a problem. It's the North American land whale known as Rosie O'Donnell. She's after your Lucky Charms. We don't want to see it happen. And we're not taking her back from you either. If you send Rosie back, we're going to tariff Ireland at 5,000% per pound, which is a lot of pounds. Think about it. So we say happy St. Patrick's Day to you. And we say, may your troubles be less, may your blessings be more, and may nothing but happiness come through your door. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Happy St. Patrick's Day to the Bongino Army. Shawn Farash here with you again. As you see, we're festive this morning. I've got, this is it. You see the size of the dishes I got on the side of my head? I get a lot of people online, and they say things like, oh, you know, you should have been in Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, cool. I've got big ears. We all understand that. But I get internet everywhere that I go with these things, and you don't. But now we're going to swap hats. You get one look at my horrible hairdo. We'll get ready to go into the show today. Good morning to everybody. It's great to be back. Thank you so much for all the support, all the kind feedback, everything that we got yesterday. We seem to have done really well. Obviously, I made a post last night on X thanking a lot of people and generally the audience in general as a whole. It was a great moment to be able to sit here and do that show yesterday, and it's another great moment to be able to do that today. Remember, you could follow the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, also on video, whether you're watching live or later, rumble.com/Bongino. Obviously, on the audio side, search Dan Bongino Show. Hit subscribe. Even if you don't listen on audio, do that. Hit subscribe. Helps the show and everything fly up the charts. It's the best place for truth and fairness in media. It's been my favorite space for political commentary for the last 8 years. I have not missed an episode. I'm proud to say that. People are like, oh, come on, that's ridiculous. No, it's true. I have not missed an episode. Let's get that hat front and center. As you see, I have my festive shirt on today. It says, kiss me. Here we go. Can I say, I am one. There we go. I'm bad at this. 1024th Irish in honor of the great Elizabeth Warren. We call her Pocahontas. I call her Chief Spitting Bull. You understand that she's a nasty person. They also call me, your favorite president, Chief Golden Eagle, the greatest. I have the biggest teepee, by the way, in the history of the world. The people like crying Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have a very small teepee. I have the biggest teepee in the history of the world. You know what I'm talking about. I also have a very big shillelagh. Everybody knows about that, too. And the biggest shamrocks. Everybody understands that. So right off the top, our friend Mazemore on X put together this amazing montage of Elizabeth Warren, that's Pocahontas, trying to sell everybody on the fact or the idea, it's not a fact, that she was Native American. I don't know, because she had high cheekbones and her papaw said something or other. So right off the top, we'll get into this St. Patrick's Day groove, have a little fun at the expense of Elizabeth Warren as we see the 1024th shirt. That's what she had come back on her DNA test. She's the only person, by the way, nobody knew this was possible until she did it. Elizabeth Warren is still the only, she definitely was the first human being to ever fail a DNA test. I didn't know you could pass or fail a DNA test, but think she was so deranged by Trump, so triggered and trolled into this act, I'll prove she knew she wasn't Native American, failed a DNA test. Let's roll this clip from Mazemore, this montage of her, trying to tell everybody how Native American she actually is.
I still have a picture on my mantle at home. And it's a picture my mother had before that, a picture of my grandfather. And my Aunt B has walked by that picture at least 1,000 times, remarked that her father, my papa, had high cheekbones like all of the Indians do, because that's how she saw it. And she said, and your mother got those same great cheekbones. I would be their first senator, so far as I know, who has Native American heritage. When I was growing up, these are the stories I knew about my heritage. I believed my mother and my father and my aunts and my uncles, and I never asked anybody for any documentation. I don't know any kid who did. Family stories are not the same as tribal citizenship, and this is why I have apologized both to Chief Baker, who was very gracious about it, and have apologized publicly.
She knew she was full of crap. Come on. And the crazy part is if any of us tried that crap, right? Like, oh, I'm Native American, I'm this, I'm that. And we were lying, us. What I mean by us is folks on the right, because it's parentheses different. It's different when they do it versus when we do it. Come on. If any of us, we would be filleted on social media, in the media. Rachel Madcow would be waving our tax returns around one day. He lied about it. He said he was white on his tax returns, or he said he was a Native American in this job application. I mean, she used that as a way to boost her career. You just saw the clips from the great Maze Moore, who, if you say something on the internet that's embarrassing, he's going to find it and put you in one of those montages. It's like the wall of shame. Maze Moore is great. He does a phenomenal job, and you should follow him on X. Mazemoore. He's one of the best, not just for the videos that he puts out, but he's just a good guy. And he's a great follow. But we had to start off with a little fun with Pocahontas, which is, I think, of all the Trump nicknames, that's probably my favorite. I'm going to do this a couple times today with the live chat. I want to ask, what is your favorite Trump nickname thus far? Because you have a couple of good ones. There's Crying Chuck, Nervous Nancy, Sleepy Joe, Crooked Hillary, Little Marco. That was good. By the way, we've upgraded him. Little Marco. He went from Little Marco to medium-sized Marco really fast. And now that he's taking on all these different jobs, he's got a lot of jobs. He might be the new head coach of the New York Jets soon, because they're probably going to fire the guy. His name is Aaron Glenn. They're going to fire him soon because they're not a good football team. We got to get Woody Johnson to do something about it. What's your favorite? Give me the live chat. Your favorite Trump nickname that he's come up with. The chat's going, Nasty Pelosi, Pencil Neck. I see Pencil Neck, Quiet Piggy, Rocket. I forgot about Rocket Man. Yeah, Little Rocket Man. Kim Jong-un. Remember when they said that him saying Little Rocket Man was going to cause World War III? Is back in his first term. You can't call him Rocket Man on Twitter. One of my favorite posts, by the way, from Trump on Twitter back in the the mean tweets era was, I think, the North Korea Kim Jong-un Newscum. A lot of people like Newscum in the chat. Looks like Newscum is winning. Shifty Schiff, Tampon Tim. This is good. Newscum is dominating in the chat. I don't think I like the nickname. But I think Pocahontas is funnier because of the whole Native American thing. But one of my favorite posts that Trump did with Kim Jong-un, Little Rocket Man, is Kim Jong-un called him old or something. He said, I don't know why Kim Jong-un is calling me old. I would never call him short and fat. I would never do that. He did that too in, I think it was New Hampshire during the primaries, the 2024 primaries. Somebody, he was on stage and somebody asked where Chris Christie was from the audience. And he said, he's probably eating, right? And then this is what I believe happened. I don't know. But he just stops what he's saying. Trump just stops what he's saying and goes, don't call him a fat pig. I would never say that. I would never call him a fat pig. I don't think anybody actually called Chris Christie a fat pig. I think Trump was kind of using that as cover to call him a fat pig. But I digress. There you go. A low energy Jeb, a couple other ones coming in. Dan will be back tomorrow. I see some people asking, where is Dan? He's going to be back tomorrow. He's, I don't know exactly what he said. I think he said some sort of prior engagement that he's had scheduled for a long time, but he will be back tomorrow morning. So you will be rid of me tomorrow. You've only got one more day, okay? You've only got one more day. Thank you guys for participating there. I appreciate it. We're going to talk about the media and how they're burying the truth this morning. They've been burying the truth from the American people about a lot of things, namely the SAVE Act, okay, and this Iran conflict. From the moment that the Iran conflict started. What was that, March 1st or something? From the moment that conflict started, the media declared that we were losing, which is incredible. As like I said yesterday, can we at least, you may not agree with the war. You may not agree with, the decision to strike Iran. You may not agree with, the pretenses and what we're being told. You may not like it. You may say there are other solutions and other ways that we could have gone about, doing these things. But can we at least not like crap all over our troops and not crap all over our country just because you don't like the president? I could tell you straight up, if Joe Biden had launched this attack on Iran, maybe I wouldn't have liked it. Maybe I would have said, whatever, let's see how far it goes. I wouldn't have had faith that Joe Biden and his team would be able to get us through it, in as best shape, as good a condition as possible. But you wouldn't see me going out there shaming the troops, getting mad that they're eating steak and lobster. Like, if there's anybody that our government should be spending money on, it's our troops. It's our men and women in the military. It's our veterans, instead of all these illegals, these bad hombres, right, in New York, getting free food, free housing, and not just in New York, right? I don't have a problem if we're going to spend $15 million feeding our troops and boosting their morale. On my show on LFA TV, we asked a question in the chat. And I said, how many of you guys and gals served and were deployed and whatnot? And what did that steak and lobster dinner mean to you? And a lot of the responses that came in, it said it made us feel appreciated. It made us feel important. It was nice to have it. It was a good morale booster. Everybody's mood on the base and in these areas kind of lifted up. And because it's better than eating these MREs all day long. Isn't that what you want? Don't you want to take care of our troops? Don't you want to show them the appreciation? Don't you want them to be motivated to serve the country proudly, valiantly, and with courage and honor? Do you want them to feel like that the country has their back? Because one meal, $15 million. What you say? People acted like Pete Hegseth was eating it all himself. It's not what was going on. So can we get back as a country, whether you're right, left, up, down, east, west, north, south, whatever you are, okay? Can we get back, if you consider yourself as an American, get back to that September 12th, 2001 mindset? I'm not asking you to pledge blind loyalty to every narrative that's told to us by the government. I'm just asking, can we respect our flag? Can we respect our country? Can we love our country again? Yes, we have flaws. We will always have flaws. You want to know why we're always going to have flaws? Because we're a country that's run by human beings, and human beings are imperfect, okay? So we're going to have flaws, but just because there's an imperfection doesn't mean the entire country sucks. And the mainstream media looks at what they believe is an imperfection, right? The president of the United States, they don't like him. Oh, he said some things. The locker room talk, he mean tweets. He calls people nicknames. Donald Trump's this, he's that, he's orange. They call me the Cheeto Torpedo. I'm very, very fast and strong. They make fun of him all the time, and they act like that imperfection is the reason to crap on the whole country. When Joe Biden was the president, I still loved this country. I didn't like our president. I thought he was a decrepit buffoon, right? Walking around and stumbling, tripping over sandbags, the ghost of Corn Pop taking him down on the stage, muttering through it, screaming and yelling out of nowhere, making up words, the proof for the pudding's in the eating, man. Nobody knows what half of the stuff eat. But I loved this country still. I flew the flag, right? I was still proud to be an American. I wasn't proud of our president, but I was proud to live in the greatest country in the world every single day. Doesn't matter who the president is. I still love this place. That's what makes us different than them. And I just want to get back to that mindset. So whether you're left, right, up, down, if you're a doomer, a black, but just for just a second, can we just appreciate and respect and love this place and love our troops and stand with our troops? Because the mainstream media clearly is trying to divide this country, trying to shame our country. It's the whole point of critical race theory and all of those things too in the schools, teaching children from age 5 to age 18 that this is a systemically racist country and that it needs to be razed to the ground and built back up in some sort of communist image. No, we're not interested in that. And that's what we're going to highlight today. The mainstream media burying the truth, shaming our troops, shaming our country, gaslighting and propagandizing the American people on issues like Iran, issues like the SAVE Act, and other issues as well. Antifa, illegal aliens, elections, things of that nature. So stick around. We're going to have a great show. We're going to take a very quick break, and then we're going to jump right into the media burying the truth, all the narratives that they are trying to spin up here regarding the Iran war and everything that we just talked about. First, a word from our friends at Patriot Mobile. Folks, America is about to celebrate its 250th anniversary, and I believe the direction of this country is being decided right now in our culture and our economy. And who we choose to support matters now more than ever. Most wireless companies don't care who you are for or what you believe. They just want your money. Patriot Mobile is different. For more than 12 years, they have stood with Americans who believe that freedom is worth defending, supporting the Christian conservative movement when others stayed silent. And here's the deal. You don't have to give up quality or service when you switch to Patriot Mobile. They deliver premium priority access on all 3 major U.S. networks, so you will get the same or better coverage than you have today. If you think switching is a hassle, it isn't. Keep your number, keep your phone, or you can upgrade. Their 100% US-based support team can activate you in just minutes. And if you're still paying off a device, don't worry. Patriot Mobile even offers a contract buyout. This is a defining year. We must work together to save our country. Go to patriotmobile.com/Dan or call 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code DAN, D-A-N, for a free month of service. That is patriotmobile.com/Dan or 972-PATRIOT and switch today. Thank you, Patriot Mobile, for being a part of the show. We appreciate it. And there's the bell, and we're ready to roll. We're ready to kick this bad boy off. The media is burying the truth, as they always do. You maybe go, Shawn, we know this already. We know the media is burying the truth. It's the mainstream media. It's the propaganda media. It's the Russia tape media, PP tape media. It's the hoax media. They're burying the truth. You got the SAVE Act kicking off today. You've got the Iran war, all of the different narratives that they're spending up. They're lying about illegal aliens voting. They're lying about married women being able to get IDs. This is hilarious, right? When we run on my show on LFA TV, it runs at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Right here on Rumble, rumble.com/LFATV. I always tell people I have the hardest job in the world. Why? I stream at the same time as the great Dan Bongino. It's tough, but it's a lot of fun. We have a great audience over there too. And a lot of people kind of bounce back between the different shows. But my wife, Brennan, sits on the microphone and sometimes we ask her kind of a couple questions. You know, and I always say, Brennan, are you an economics major? She nailed the question about economics last week, by the way, or 2 weeks ago. I said, Brennan, what happens if everybody sells their assets at the same time? She goes, the market crashes. I said, yes. And she was like, oh, cool, I got it right. And the whole chat was so proud. It's so much fun. By the way, just a short aside. She got me in trouble once. We used to have a soundboard, and we were doing a story about one of these, it was a story out of the Netherlands. I didn't really get in trouble. It was one of the best drops in the history of drops. You know, we were doing a story about this 18-year-old in the Netherlands got this gender reassignment surgery. And he unfortunately, it's not funny, but the way this ended is funny. He unfortunately passed away because he went into organ failure. And the whole idea here was to highlight we don't want our children to have to be put at risk with these gender reassignment surgeries. So she's getting ready to press the button on the soundboard, and she's looking at me like, "Can I press it?" And I was like, "Yeah, go ahead, go for it." And she hits it, and the button that she pressed, again, in response to this guy, having this tragic situation in the Netherlands, was the Trump, he died like a dog. He died like a dog. And I was like, no, not that one. It was one of the funniest moments ever. But we ask her questions on the show all the time, and she'll answer these questions, Brennan will. And sometimes, when she gets the answers right, it's a great occasion. It's wonderful. But the whole point of that is, not an economics major, not a, political science major. We got married in May of 2023. And we went through the process of updating your Social Security and getting a new ID with her new name on it. And somehow, despite the fact that we're not experts in this arena, we were able to do it. So Brennan Farash is a married woman, and she's able to vote. Unbelievable. She has ID. Oh my gosh. She was able to vote in Tennessee, which is rated the #1 state in election integrity across the country. Showed ID on Election Day in 2024, and we'll be voting again, obviously, in our local elections coming up here in 2026 and the midterm elections. And she'll be able to vote because, despite what people want to tell you, married women can get IDs. You just have to kind of try and know what you're doing. But we're going to start with Iran. We'll get into the SAVE Act in a minute. There is a new poll that came out, a couple of new polls, actually. New polling about Operation Epic Fury, which is a very interesting name, isn't it? Right? You think Trump picked that one himself? I think he did. It kind of sounds, Brennan says it kind of sounds like a teenager's like gamer tag, like Epic Fury has entered the chat. And I think that's kind of funny. But Operation Epic Fury, Democrats and liberal media trying to disparage Operation Epic Fury. They're trying to split the country. They're trying to shame our troops. It's disgusting. But this article on Red State has a couple of good points. Number one, it's perfectly fine if you want to ask questions. A lot of people are like, oh, you don't want us asking questions. You have a problem with us criticizing the president. You have a problem with us asking how long this. I don't have a problem with any of that. Okay? I don't have a problem with any of that. It's when you frame it, you frame your question becomes a loaded question. That's when I have a problem. Okay? I made this example yesterday, and we use this example all the time. When did you stop beating your wife? Well, when you ask that question, okay, it's like it's a loaded. You're making an accusation. You're making a statement. You're making the accusation that the person who you're asking the question to at one point beat their wife, right? It's just the same thing here. What we're seeing with this war. A lot of people are going, well, how many Americans are you willing to let die for Israel? Well, that's the problem. You're framing it as if we're doing this war on behalf of another country. We're not. And this poll is going to prove that, okay? Because approval for this war, it's not through the roof, although 85% of Republicans approve it. But voters were asked whether they approved of President Trump using the military to eliminate Iran's nuclear missile program and its support for terrorism. Iran supports terrorism in the region, right? Whether it's Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, the Iraqi militias that were responsible for a lot of American deaths when we were occupying places in Iraq and Afghanistan, places like that. The number one sponsor of terrorism worldwide is this Islamic, quote unquote, republic. It's not a republic at all over there in Iran, the IRGC and that regime that's in place. Well, 51% approved, while 41% disapproved. And the question was this, right? Do you approve of using the military to eliminate Iran's nuclear missile program and its support for terrorism, given Iran's refusal to negotiate an end to its nuclear weapons and missile development? 51% of Americans approved, 41% disapproved. Support was overwhelming among Republicans. 86% of Republicans approved, and 25% of Democrats. Now, when they were reminded in this poll, when the voters were reminded of Iran's, quote, long record of hostility towards the United States, assassination threats on Donald Trump, but not just Donald Trump. They've been trying to take out the U.S. president for the last 50 years or so, 47 years, how long they've been in power. They chant death to America in their parliament. Look, is another country chanting death to America, if that was happening in a vacuum, is that licensed to bomb that country? No, but it is licensed to keep a close eye on that country. And then if they're, arming terror units and groups around the region that are claiming American lives, that's another step up the escalation ladder. So when they were asked or reminded of Iran's long record of hostility towards the United States, the support for the action, Operation Epic Fury, was even stronger. The United States military, this is the question. This is the verbatim in the poll. The United States military actions against Iran and the leadership of the Iranian regime were necessary and warranted to protect American lives today and in the future. A clear majority, 57% of likely voters, okay, these are people that are going to show up to vote in the midterms, likely, agreed. Only 33% of respondents disagreed when the question was framed, when they were given the entire context, okay? And this goes back to what I was just saying about the people who are asking questions, but they're asking these loaded questions like, how many Americans are you willing to let die for Israel? Well, I just read to you the context this conflict is being commenced in, right? The reason why we're there, it's not because of Israel. It has nothing to do with that. Are they helping? Yes, but let's be real. You can't ignore the fact that Iran is responsible, both directly and indirectly, for thousands of American deaths in the region. Now, if you want to say, well, that's a good reason why we shouldn't be in the region, fine. Let's have that conversation. Let's have a conversation about where the U.S. military is being deployed around the world. Let's have the conversation about should we be the world police. But I hate to say it, if we don't do it, who else is going to do it? I mean, there's a certain amount of stability that comes with that too. And also there's hostilities that arise from that because countries feel like they're being occupied or that we're imposing our will. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later in the show. But the point that I'm trying to highlight here is that when you're given the context, okay, when I mean the context, when you're given the framework of why we're doing this, right? We're not just doing this because Israel asked us to. We're not just doing this because they chant death to America in their parliament. We're not just doing this because they're assassinating Donald Trump. We're not just doing this because they've taken thousands of American lives. We're doing this because of all of that combined and the fact that a group of people who you can't trust, I don't care if you approve or disapprove of this war, you cannot trust the Iranians with a nuclear weapon. You can't. They have openly said they want to kill us. Let's put it very simply. If you had somebody who you knew wanted you dead, like you knew it, if and when they had the chance to kill you, they would without hesitation. That's how Iran feels about the United States. Okay, to be clear, they want us dead, period. But what about, stop with the whatabouts. Iran wants to kill us. They chant death to America. They've taken the lives of our soldiers. So if you know that somebody in your neighborhood wants you dead, and if given the chance, he'll kill you, are you going to hand him a loaded gun? Here you go. Are you going to do that? Of course not. Right? Because what's rule number one of the Dan Bongino show? It's don't get dead, right? So if handing somebody who wants you dead a loaded gun, that's not a good idea because that increases the likelihood of you getting dead, right? Because that person who has the gun wants to get you dead, right? So he's going to shoot you with the gun and then you're going to be dead. And that's it. Story's over. Final chapter's written. Close the book. Done. You're not going to hand that person a gun. It's the same thing that we're talking about with Iran. Now, whether it was Obama with the pallets of cash, it was Joe Biden after September 11th in 2023, unfreezing $6 billion of assets. The lefty media was like, oh, he didn't give Iran money. He just unfroze assets. It's the same thing. They didn't have access to the money. Iran's leadership said they're going to use it for humanitarian purposes. Humanitarian? What? Do you understand that there's in all the people are genocide in Gaza? Women are stoned to death if they have too much skin showing in that country. Are you serious? Obama and Biden essentially handed Iran a loaded gun and said, do what you want. Now, we'll trust that you're not going to kill us, but we think you're going to kill us. So that's part of it. When you give Americans the context as to why we're in Iran doing this Operation Epic Fury, more people support it. Among independents, by the way, which is a crucial group, 46%, a plurality, it's not a majority, 46% agreed it was necessary compared to 40% who disagreed. This is a sample of 1,000 likely voters between March 2nd and March 9th. Likely voters, which means these are people who are likely, there's a good chance that they're going to show up and vote in the midterms. On top of that is another poll from Rasmussen. The latest Rasmussen Reports National Telephone and Online Survey finds that 61% of likely voters say that based on what they know, the military operation against Iran has been successful so far, including 35% who view it to be very successful. 29% don't consider the Iran war successful so far, including 12% who see it as not at all successful. 11% say they're not sure. And that's what the media wants. They want to grow that number. They want to make our troops look like they're incompetent. They want to shame our troops. They want to shame anybody who even thinks about saying, oh, we support the actions in Iran. The Democrat liberal media on this operation is failing, and it's failing because of people like you. It's failing because of shows like this. People like Dan Bongino, the entire team here that every single day puts out the truth for everybody to consume and distribute, to educate and inform the American people. You can't stop it, right? When you're on a platform like Rumble, you can't stop it. You can't shut it down. People aren't having their videos removed. This is the whole point here. It's to destroy the liberal media narrative and destroy the stranglehold that they have on information. Compare this and where we are now with the decentralization of information and content to where we were back in 2016 and 2017 and 2018. Mainly, we'll focus on 2018, right? The 2018 midterm cycle. What was the main story in 2018 during the midterm cycle? What was the main story? It was Russia, right? Trump colluded with Russia. Trump colluded with Putin. I got along well with Putin, but I didn't collude. There was no collusion. We don't collude. You look at crooked Joe Biden, he was tooting with Putin. Horrible. He went to the Vatican too. They called that one Operation Tootsie Roll. He dropped a baby Ruth on the floor. You're not supposed to do that. We had to pay to replace it. You're not supposed to do that. He had a Jerry Nadler moment. I called him the Pampers president because he used to have to wear diapers. Think about it. Crooked Jill had to change him a number of times. 2018, though, Russia was the main story, right? Trump colluded with Russia, illegitimate president. There was the Mueller investigation. And everybody who ran to get elected in that cycle, some of the new faces like Rashida Tlaib. What do we call her? We call her Piggy Smalls, right? The notorious P.I.G. She's a nasty person. By the way, you ever notice that she looks like Roz from Monsters, Inc.? I'm sorry, Roz. I don't mean to compare you to such a ghoul. Where's your paperwork, Wazowski? She looks just like her. I put a picture up not too long. It's just like they're identical. It's interesting. I wonder if she's going for that look. I don't know. But Rashida Tlaib, she campaigned, we're going to impeach the mother effer. That was her like slogan over Russia, right? But the media, the mainstream media, had such a stranglehold on the distribution of information that they were able to gaslight even some, moderates to I knew a few fairly conservative people who were like, I don't know, this doesn't look good for Trump. And I was like, what do you mean? Here, listen to Dan Bongino talking about Spygate. It's all a hoax, right? And I did that a few times. I actually worked with some folks, during that whole time. And I would play this in the middle of my store. It was clean and everything, no problems. And they were like, I didn't realize all this stuff was bogus. Education, give people information, arm them with knowledge. But the media is not stopping with just trying to divide the country and the people and the way the American people feel. They're also playing a dangerous game with the White House. And I don't think anything's going to come between President Trump and J.D. Vance. I think they're working well together. But this is on Breitbart, that the media now is trying to split the president and the vice president, especially surrounding Operation Epic Fury. Now, you remember, here it is, a Breitbart article. Democrats, the establishment, and liberal media lie about J.D. Vance's whereabouts amid Operation Epic Fury. And they do this all the time. Remember Labor Day over the course of, was it last summer, 2025, Labor Day? Remember that rumor that spread on Labor Day weekend? You guys know what I'm talking about? They said Donald Trump is dead. Remember that? There was a hoax that Trump was dead. We haven't seen him. Oh, he's having a medical emergency, right? They started sharing, fake pictures of him and all sorts of stuff. I made a poem. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. Violets are blue and roses are red. And the left is throwing fits because I am not dead. Everybody understands that. We understand that very well. I was alive and well. I'm still alive and well. And kicking, by the way, like nobody's ever kicked before. I kick like nobody's ever kicked. But the media now, according to this story on Breitbart, sitting there trying to divide the American people and divide the White House. It's a dangerous game. You don't want division among your president, between your president and your vice president. And, you want to call it a time of war, you want to call it during a military operation, whatever you want to call it. Democrats, the establishment, liberal media, have claimed Vice President J.D. Vance has kept a low profile since Operation Epic Fury began in Iran earlier this month, despite the vice president engaging in a number of public-facing events. They did the same thing with the Venezuela raid. Do you remember? January 3rd, we got Maduro. El Gato Gordo. We call him El Gato Gordo. That means the fat cat. We got him. And we discombobulated a lot of people. We have the discombobulator. We discombobulated a lot of people. You don't want to be discombobulated. It's a scary thing. I can't tell you what it means, but all I know is you're going to be discombobulated. You don't want that. But they said the same thing. How come J.D. Vance wasn't in the Situation Room? Or the president doesn't want to include the vice president? There was an explanation. The explanation was since Donald Trump was in Mar-a-Lago at the time of that raid, and J.D. Vance was somewhere else, if they saw J.D. Vance, in a whole motorcade headed to Mar-a-Lago in the middle of the night, it might have tipped off the Venezuelans that something was about to happen. But the media didn't want to tell you that. The media didn't want to tell you that was for operational security. The media wanted to tell you that it was all about, this nonsense, right? That, the president doesn't trust his vice president. Now, ask yourself, you always got to ask yourself, what is the motive? What is the goal? Why would they be doing that? If there really was and there isn't. So I'm not even entertaining this. I'm just for the sake of, this discussion. If there really was a rift between Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, the media wouldn't have to tell you that there's a rift between Donald Trump and J.D. Vance every chance that they get. Right? If there was actually a rift between Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, the mainstream media wouldn't have to try so hard to make it look like there's a rift. So what this means to me, and Dan says this all the time, is I always judge the success of your actions based off of the reaction of the left. This means to me that team is like this. Trump and Vance. The whole cabinet, really, but Trump and Vance, because that's for the sake of what we're talking about. That team is like this. They're working well together. They're working so well together that the mainstream media is triggered over it, and they're trying to invent fake stories and hoaxes to drive a wedge between those two men. And it's not working. In the 17 days since the start, this is from back on that Breitbart article, the 17 days since the start of Operation Epic Fury, which has seen the dismantlement of Iran's Navy, I sunk your battleship. We took it out. I sunk all your battleships, by the way. And we used a torpedo. We took one out with a big, beautiful torpedo. We took out your Navy. The Navy wasn't very good. They were like little paper ships. We took them out. But I sunk your battleship. We dropped a big, beautiful bomb on one of your battleships. We dropped Jiggly Belly Pritzker on your battleship. He's got a big, beautiful belly. And we call him a 30,000-pound bunker buster. We took him out. We took him out. Pritzker, by the way, is losing a lot of weight. Did you see there was a video of him last night? So he's losing a lot of weight. Must be taking that Ozempic. Trump RX, baby. Now Pritzker can afford that fat shot. They took out Iran's Navy, the 17 days, much of its ballistic missile, goodness gracious, program. Also repeated casualties in its Islamic regime. Vance has engaged in several public events. On March 2nd, he joined Fox News. That's one day into the war. He joined Fox News' Jesse Waters for a primetime interview. On March 7th, he attended the dignified transfer of the first U.S. service members who were killed. The next day, he delivered remarks to the International Association of Firefighters Conference, attended a dignified transfer there. On Friday, last week, delivered remarks in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and then participated in a subsequent press gaggle. On Monday, he joined President Trump for an anti-fraud executive order in the Oval Office. So for all these rumors that the president and the vice president aren't getting along and that there's a divide, but there's so much proof. There's so much proof and evidence to the contrary. It's embarrassing that they're even trying. But the fact that they're trying means that this team scares them. The fact that they're trying, I think there may be a little bit of forward thinking going on here too with the media, where they want to try and get some shots in on Vance before he potentially runs for president in 2028? Because look at the Democrats bench, right? Newsom, Kamala Harris. By the way, please run again. Please run again for two reasons, okay? Number one, the SD Palti content, all right? The Kamala impersonator. We had so much fun doing the debates and all that. And obviously Trump won't be running, but please run again. That's number one. Number two, I mean, easy to beat. You know, the children of the community or the children of the community banks serves banks in the community. And I have this, I should have brought it. I have this fork. It's like this big, but it extends. We turn that into the word salad fork. So as Kamala keeps going on, the fork gets bigger. And it's like Pinocchio, but it's a fork. Clearly, J.D. Vance has maintained a public profile. He's not hiding. He's not ashamed of anything. As a matter of fact, the president of the United States is putting him in charge of this massive fraud investigation. We have a clip from the White House, I believe this was yesterday, of Donald Trump announcing that J.D. Vance is going to be the new chair of this investigation, investigating fraud across the country, because there's been fraud across the country. California, New York, Minnesota, right? You look at all the Somali fraud, bananas and rice, all that money going all that bananas. Remember that? It's being Somali is more than just bananas and rice, but it's kind of a lot like bananas and rice. And I like to eat bananas and rice. Being Somali is essentially being like bananas and rice. That was what that one woman said. And there was the other kid who was like, we have the evidence that there was no fraud, but someone stole it. Did Fido eat it too? Your dog eat your homework? These people. Let's roll that clip of Vance, J.D. Vance. Oh, it was Trump actually naming J.D. Vance the new fraud chair. Let's roll that.
I think hopefully it's going to be JD's. This will not be like a Kamala where she was put in charge of the border and she never went there, JD, right? You promise?
I promise, sir.
Remember, Kamala was put in charge. She was the border czar. She never went to the border. She never called any of the great border patrol. The border patrol testified. We never spoke to her in 4 years. And that was a disaster. But this is different. This is a different group of people.
I love it. Take all the digs at Kamala you want. I love it. I forgot about that. I forgot she was the border czar. How could I forget? She was the border czar. Well, remember when she said, yeah, and I haven't been to Europe either. What does one have to do with the other, by the way? So you're the border czar, you never go to the border. You also never went to Europe. So you're telling me that because you've never went to Europe, you shouldn't go to the border? Strange, right? Remember the Kamala Harris immigration policy of don't? What do you say to the people coming? Don't. That was her Iran policy too. Don't. And then Iran did. Joe Biden was like, don't. And Iran did again. Speaking of Biden, and I should have pulled this. This is an old one. One of my favorite moments of Joe Biden, and this was back, by the way, in 2022, okay, on what's now known as 61 Minutes, but it was 60 Minutes back then because they didn't edit this out and let him do a new answer. Scott Pelley, who was nibbling on his glasses the whole time, he was chewing on them, which is so strange. Don't do that in the middle of an interview. It's very weird. But Scott Pelley asks Joe Biden a question about his age. And he just said, oh, I'm focused, right? And then he answered, he said, this is an exact, I'm not making this up. This is an exact quote. He said, I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly. I have no idea what that means. I don't think anyone does. I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly. Your guess is as good as mine. Sharp as a tack, though. When they told us he was sharp as a tack up until the debate. Kamala did, the media did. The media with the lies. Joe Biden, sharp as a tack. Yeah, he may have said, I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly in the middle of an interview. Nobody knows what it means. Nobody bothered to ask. And then he goes on the debate stage. And we finally beat Medicare. Nobody knows what that means either. And then they came out and said, well, he was jet lagged and he had a cold. And then they admitted that apparently he lost his mind like overnight. So he went from sharp as a tack to possibly suffering from cognitive problems like this. And they expected you to believe that, he caught dementia overnight, which obviously isn't how it works. Crazy. Jet lag and a cold. I've been jet lagged before. I've had colds before. I've never had them both at the same time. But I have a feeling if I did, I wouldn't look like that and wouldn't perform like that on a debate stage. Just saying. The media can't help but lie and gaslight and propagandize you. And that's why we're here talking about this right now. I want to ask the chat to participate one more time. You did this with the nicknames, okay? I want to see how many of these I've forgotten. But you had Newscomb, it looked like won the chat back in, towards the beginning of the show. It looked like Newscomb was everybody's favorite, which surprised me, actually. I got to be honest. I thought it was, I thought Pocahontas would win, especially considering the shirt. But that's okay. That's all right. We can still be friends. Justin and I are not friends because he likes the World Baseball Classic. Although I'm very excited for the final tonight. He sold me yesterday after the show. He was like, "You got to watch it. The energy's great." He was like selling me. I was like, "Do you have a vested interest in the World Baseball Classic? You're like an investor."
I just love rooting for U.S. man.
Loves rooting for the U.S. Right. So we're playing Venezuela tonight. So the rule is, okay, if Venezuela thinks they're going to win or do something, we're just going to kidnap their president again. So he might want to put a call.
Every home run is another Venezuelan leader
gone
on the
Yes.
helicopter.
So yeah, just how about we do every run? Every run, okay? So for
Every extra bat flip.
yeah, you bat flip, it's over. We're taking down the whole. Like they have we'll start with the executive branch of Venezuela, okay? We'll start with the executive branch of Venezuela. But if you bat flip or you do anything like that, if you forget it. If you hit one of the U.S. batters, we're dropping a bomb on the whole. Gone, done. Don't you touch Aaron Judge, okay? Now, I want to ask the chat real quick. That they're doing nicknames again, which is great. DeSanctimonious was great. I'll be watching that tonight. I'll be flipping back and forth between the United States and Venezuela and Islanders Maple Leafs because I love watching U.S. teams beat Canada. It's great, especially Pajama Boy John Tavares. Let's go Islanders. Someone just oh my gosh, wait, I got to go back to this comment in the chat. Someone just said, Remy Herb in the chat said, "My husband heard you talking and asked me if Trump was on the show." That's one of my favorite types of comments. Like across the room, they were like, "Why is Trump talking about hurricane season?" What is your favorite mainstream media hoax of all time? Is it Russiagate? Is it Suckers and Losers? Or is it the Bloodbath hoax? I want to know. Let's rack your brain in the chat. Favorite mainstream media hoax of all time? Because now we're in the Trump and Vance isn't getting along hoax. We had, what was it? Trump is dead hoax. That was a good one. That wasn't really mainstream media, though. I don't think they really ran with that. There was a few good ones. Signalgate was a good one this year. What is your favorite? Steak and Lobster Gate, that was a good one. What is your favorite mainstream media Trump hoax of all time? We see Russia. Oh, Fine People. Yeah, the Fine People hoax is a good one. Very fine people. 165 schoolgirl hoax, okay. Most secure election hoax, that was a good one. Let's see. PP hoax, Suckers, and this chat's going out of control. My goodness. What if we break the chat? That would be fun, right? Look at that. Jussie Smollett, that was a good one. Oh, drink bleach. That was a good one. That was a great hoax. Steak and Lobster. Russian prostitutes. Yeah, Laptop from Hell. That was good. Fine People. Climate change. Let's see. 2020 election. Insurrection.
Eating cats and dogs.
Oh, that was a good one. They're eating the cats and dogs. Somebody made like a song that was like, eat the cat. Eat. It was so funny. Fine People. Russia. A lot of people are saying Russia. There you go. Tylenol. Tylenol was great. Because of the Tylenol hoax this year, I made a video. I was sitting on this. So for a little bit of inside baseball, sometimes how I sit on these videos. I sit on these comments of these concepts for a while. For example, hurricane season. I was telling a few friends of mine when hurricane season started, I was like, if we don't get a single hurricane this year, single U.S. hurricane, we're going to do, Trump ended hurricane season because it's the Gulf of America. And so we did that. I was sitting on the concept of, making fun of Trump derangement syndrome. So we're endorsing oxygen, right? We love to breathe in and out. My doctor said to me, "Sir, you have the greatest lungs in the history of the world. Look at those. They inflate, they deflate. Your diaphragm is strong. It operates like nobody's ever seen. You're in phenomenal shape. You look like a Greek god. I got along well with Zeus. Tremendous person. But I said, we're endorsing breathing. We love to breathe. Breathing is a tremendous exercise. We encourage all of you to do that. But they say to me, "Sir, if you do that, the left is going to hold their breath. Don't do it." Then the Tylenol hoax came out, so we did the PSA. We're warning against showering with your toaster. Don't do it. We don't want you to do it. You're going to get shocked. You're fried enough as it is. You're going to get shocked. Don't put your toaster in your bathtub, and don't lick your windows or your wall outlets. I know you love licking windows. You're a bunch of window lickers. And fist eaters. You love shoving your fists in your mouth. Don't lick your wall outlets either. We don't want you to get electrocuted. So that's the whole Tylenol thing. So looks like PP tape was the PP tape was the winner in that one. Paper straws. What is the paper straws? I don't remember that one. Global warming. That was a good one. Bleach. Drinking bleach was a great. He said to drink bleach. He said he did not say to drink bleach. Now, he said something about like injecting a disinfectant, and people thought that meant to chug Lysol. So, but you can't fix stupid. You just can't. And these are very stupid people. Very stupid people. All right. Let's move through here. We're going to get into, we're past Iran, but we're still going to talk about the mainstream media. They're not pushing back on anything that the left does, ever. They're only criticizing Trump, trying to drive a wedge between J.D. Vance, trying to drive a wedge between the American people and the truth. It's not working because we have more avenues for us to consume content. Now, that does come with some risks. There's a lot of BS out there, right? There's a lot of clickbait. I saw people talking about this cold front that just went through the country, and they're like, oh, something's weird. Like, it's called March. It happens. You go from winter, which is what? A cold time of year. And you go into spring, which is when it starts to get warmer. And there's fluctuations between the temperatures. And sometimes you have Arctic air come down. Of course, they're blaming the Jews for that too. Is that Mossad cold front came through the country? My goodness gracious, guys. All right. Let's move into this now. SAVE Act. Save America Act. Can't call it the SAVE Act. Trump says if you call it the SAVE Act, it's a problem. I don't want him mad with me because we see what happens when he gets mad with other people. Like you wake up, someone's got a discombobulator in your face. You're like, don't want that. Okay. Or bombs fall. We don't want that either. Save America Act. Apparently that is going to be kicking off in the Senate today. Senate Majority Leader John Thune is supposed to be kicking that off today, kicking off the activity. Oh, geez, I just closed the window. Kicking off the activities of the SAVE Act there. Here's what we have to consider. I know Senator Mike Lee has been on this show a bunch of times. I've interacted with him several times on X. I find him to be a fascinating guy, very smart. I think the talking filibuster would give you the best chance to pass this. I don't think that's going to happen for a couple of reasons. I don't think there's enough support, namely among Republicans, that would allow the talking filibuster to even be utilized here. But John Thune, according to Politico, okay, hands up, don't shoot. I don't like Politico, but I learned from the best, right? Dan Bongino, where he goes into these left-wing sources to see what they're saying. How nervous are they? They don't seem very nervous, but we'll talk about it anyway. They're starting with this procedural vote as soon as today. The bill is likely doomed. This is funny. Thanks to bipartisan opposition and the GOP conference's desire to protect the filibuster. Okay, bipartisan opposition. They're using people like Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Mitch McConnell, Tom Tillis. We'll get to him in a second. That guy's I don't like him. They're using them to say, oh, it's bipartisan. 85% of the country supports voter ID. Okay? 85%. You could do the whole, it's bipartisan opposition, and then your Senate's not doing its job. All right. Let's do this for the libs, for the mainstream media people out there. Nicole Wallace, who I don't know if she likes my shirt today. She always talks about Dan's shirt. I'm happy she doesn't talk about me much because that'd be kind of creepy. She's older and all this. But we'll slow it down because they have to understand how our government works, okay? So we have these things called elections, okay, where we choose leaders, representatives, officials. I don't like calling them leaders, officials, representatives, to go to our nation's capital, which is in Washington, D.C. We did a tremendous job cleaning it up, by the way. Very clean, very safe. It's a lot safer than it used to be. But they go to Washington, D.C., and they are supposed to consult with their constituents. Okay, so let's start in Congress, the House of Representatives. They come from these things called congressional districts. And the representative from a congressional district is supposed to vote based on what the people in that congressional district want. That is what representative government looks like. That is how a republic is supposed to function. Okay? We live in a republic, not a democracy, but a republic. We use the democratic process to elect our leaders, but we live in a republic. Okay? So these leaders, think of them as your, waiter or waitress, your chef in a restaurant. They ask you, sir, ma'am, how do you want your meal cooked? How do you want your steak cooked? I want it cooked. The only answer, by the way, if you well done, except for the president, we can't deal with. That's like weird. Why don't you just eat a shoe if you want your steak well done? Whatever. Someone's going to yell at me for that, I'm sure. Because if it's red, there could be worms. It's fine. It's all right. Get rid of them. You a little ivermectin, everybody's okay. Apparently, you can take that stuff for everything. It's not endorsed by the FDA. But they go to D.C. and they vote on what the people want. Just like your waiter or waitress at the restaurant cooks your meal based on how you tell them to cook it, right? The Senate is supposed to do the same thing with these senators, 2 of them in every state. And these senators, statewide, are essentially supposed to gauge what the voters in that state, want them to do when they're in Washington, D.C. If 85% of the American people, and these are according to polls that were cited by CNN, okay? Harry Enton and these guys over there. Harry Enton's not that bad, but it's CNN. 85% of Americans believe asking for voter ID, asking for ID when you're voting is totally fine. They support it. 85%. If you're dealing with less than 85% of your congressional representatives and your senators, right, then they're not doing their jobs. It's not about what you want if you're a senator. It's not about what you want if you're a member of the House of Representatives. You're supposed to be representing the people. This is what drives me crazy about a guy like Tom Tillis. If anybody in my mind gets a pass, and I'm not trying to tell you that I'm not annoyed by this person, but for example, Susan Collins is a Republican senator in a blue state. Now, I don't mean that the whole state is blue and that there are no Republicans in the state of Maine, but it's a blue state, right? So her job is not to vote like a Republican per se. Her job is supposed to vote the way her constituents want her to vote. That will effectively make her more moderate. I'm not telling you I like Susan Collins. I'm just telling you that if there's anyone that would maybe I see why she's doing it, it's probably her. Mitch McConnell has no excuse in Kentucky. The awkward turtle, right? We're going to handle this on the floor of the Senate. And people are like, can you do a Mitch McConnell impression? I'm like, yeah. Because he just freezes all the time. Glitch McConnell. We call him Glitch. Glitch McConnell. He's buffering. Look at him. He's buffering. He's having a lot of problems. Lisa Murkowski in Alaska has no excuse to vote the way she votes. There are more polar bears in Alaska than there are Democrats. There's no excuse for any of this. Tom Tillis, okay, North Carolina is a swing state, but Tom Tillis is practically a Democrat in the state of North Carolina. And here's what really annoyed me about Tillis, who is apparently an opponent of the SAVE Act in this political article. Losing Republicans on launch. Thune will kick things off as soon as today with a vote that requires a simple majority to open debate. At least one Republican, Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, is planning to oppose the move. Why? Well, he's retiring. He has nothing to lose. But this is the thing with Tom Tillis that really got me annoyed. Last year, right around this time, a little bit later, but he started to chirp about this right around this time. Tom Tillis was campaigning hard against Ed Martin when he was nominated for D.C. U.S. Attorney. That's the position that's currently occupied by the great Judge Jeanine Pirro, and she's doing a great job. And she snapped on the media the other day. She was like, cut it out and all this. I was like, this is great. But Tom Tillis sounded like he was warming up for the opera, okay? Sounded like he was on like a pirate ship somewhere. I was, what are you doing? They asked him, why do you oppose Ed Martin's nomination? Oh, I don't like the way he talks about January 6th. I don't like the way I don't like the fact that he was a lawyer for the defendants in January 6th. I don't like that he did work with January 6th foundations. I don't like this. I don't like that. It's not about you. You're not there to represent yourself. You're there to represent the voters who sent you there. You shouldn't be talking to the media, warming up to singing the opera. Me, 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 me. We shouldn't. That's not your job. Your job is not to vote how Tom Tillis wants. Your job is to vote how your constituents want. Now, I don't know. Maybe if he would have polled his constituents in North Carolina, it would have came back and said they don't like Ed Martin. I don't know. But he didn't even do that. He voted the way he wanted to vote based on his personal opinions. That is not his job. His job is not to go to the Senate and vote based off of his personal preferences and his opinions. His job is to represent his people. You see the same thing in Kentucky with Thomas Massie. I have principles. Okay, but what about your people? By the way, you don't have principles. You're taking money from all sorts of people that support Democrats, and you had a chance to stop the debt ceiling from being suspended under Joe Biden, and you voted for it twice. So you don't have principles. You're a liar and a fraud. But, right, everything is with these people who put themselves before their constituents. That's not your job. That's not how you're supposed to be doing this job. Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, same deal. Declined to say how they were going to vote. They may need J.D. Vance just to get this whole thing kicked off. It's a disgrace. And what's in the Save America Act is not unreasonable. Voter ID is not, it's supported by a huge majority of Americans. Massive. This should be the easiest piece of legislation to pass in the last 30 years or more. 85% of Americans support voter ID. But you have, again, the mainstream media, as they try to bury the truth, trying to scare people into believing that if the Save America Act was passed, that they would lose their right to vote. And who are they targeting? Minorities and women. They do this all the time. The reason why they're targeting those groups, why? Because they think you are stupid. If you are a woman, if you are a minority in this country, the left and the mainstream media think you are stupid. You should be insulted. You know, you like to clutch pearls. Oh my gosh. You like to clutch pearls all the time about things. It's the left. This is something to clutch your pearls over. Your elected leaders believe you're too dumb to make your own decisions. If I was a minority, by the way, I can identify as a minority, I guess, right? You know what I was thinking? I was thinking of this concept. President Trump, the first transgender president, like he should as a troll. My name is now Donna Trump. You think they'd go for that? I don't think they'd go for that. Oh, he's making a mockery of the process. Like your whole thing is a mockery, right? Your whole thing is making a mockery between men and women. Here's the deal. They think you can't get an ID if you're black. They think you can't get an ID if you're a married woman. It's out of control. It's called the soft bigotry of low expectations. It's just like critical race theory. When I lived on Long Island, we had the loud majority doing what we did, going to school board meetings and everything. And the media was coming at us, calling us racist. The SPLC put us on a hate list. A state senator compared me to Timothy McVeigh. By the way, she lost. She's no longer a state senator. You should have kept your mouth shut, Anna Kaplan, but you didn't. You decided to make an idiot of yourself online, compare me to Timothy McVeigh, when I was just trying to be fair to students. It's okay. You're not a senator anymore. That happens to be why. Too bad. So sad. It sucks to suck. Critical race theory in the schools is dangerous, not just because it's teaching people to hate our country, but it's teaching individuals to hate each other. If you take a student, okay, like for example, I'll use this as an example. If you take a student, right, who from age 5 to age 18 is told that you see this phone on the screen, right, it's a rectangle. If they're told that this is a circle, this shape is a circle, after 13 years of education and answering that question over and over and over again on the test, they will believe that. They will tell you that that is a circle. That's wrong. That is the essence of brainwashing, right? That is the essence of brainwashing. Well, they were doing that, and they're still doing that in a lot of these public schools, a system that I believe is broken beyond repair in many cases. They're teaching these minority students that if you have darker skin than some of your classmates, that you're automatically oppressed, that they are the oppressors, right? That you were born at a disadvantage simply because you're black or you're a Latino or you're a woman or you're whatever it is. And they go through 13 years of that type of stuff being pumped into their heads, and they grow to hate one another, right? Oh, they don't like the white students. The white students are oppressing me. How? How are the white students oppressing you? They're not. But these kids are quite literally being brainwashed through this process. And what's sad is that, again, that in and of itself, teaching that message in and of itself is racism. It is. Now, I want to pivot off of that point, and this is how the Democrats are acting right now when we talk about ID. Black people, women, minorities, married women. Apparently, none of those folks can get ID. If that's the case, then why is this supported? 76% of black voters, 85% of all voters. Why is it supported by so many people if apparently you're telling me that like this massive segment of the population can't get ID? Well, we know what's going on, but let's roll this cut here. Jamie Raskin opposes the SAVE Act because apparently, according to Jamie Raskin, married women can't get identification.
They've got no program for the country other than disenfranchisement, voter suppression, the SAVE Act, which I think violates the 19th Amendment when you tell American women you bring your driver's license and you bring your birth certificate. And if they don't match, which they won't for 69 million American women, then you need to bring a passport. And half of the people don't have passports, So, just go out and buy an ID. That's a poll tax.
It's not a poll tax. It's very interesting because my wife votes. We vote in everything. Never once, not ever. By the way, we both don't have passports. Okay? We got married and we got the name change and wow, everything's okay. She's able to vote. It's quite remarkable, actually. Because according to Jamie Raskin, it's impossible. And according to that hack of a host, whoever that was, I forget her name, Simone, that's something, I don't know. Idiot, what she is. Right? That should be impossible. I guess Brennan is committing voter fraud because she's voting. She's not supposed to be able to discuss. It's an attack on the 19th Amendment. As if when women get married, they can't figure out how to get a new ID with their new name on it. How are you as a woman not offended by that? How does that not piss you off? It's gotta. It has to piss you off. They think so little of you women that when you get married, that you can't figure out how to update your own identification. That's how little they think of you. Let's go to another one. Here is, as my wife calls him, Dollar Store Obama. Hakeem Jeffries. We called him El Hakimo. And on Columbus Day, they call me Chief Golden Eagle. We call Hakeem Jeffries Chief Tiny Teepee. Very small. And he's very embarrassed about it. But he's a stupid person. He's a very stupid person. Of all of the Democrats in the House, I think he annoys me the most. Because you could just see that there's nothing. The lights are on, but nobody's home when he speaks. Here's Hakeem Jeffries. This is great, by the way. Saying we don't need the Save America Act. We have the Constitution. And the Constitution says only citizens can vote. Roll Hakeem.
Now, the United States Constitution also makes clear that only citizens can vote. That's a constitutional requirement. And states are free to implement that requirement as best they see fit. In New York State, for instance, there are strong voter identification requirements that have been embraced by both Democrats and Republicans. This is a phony issue that Donald Trump is creating.
Hi, I'm from New York. I live in Tennessee now. I lived in New York for 31 years. I've been voting since the 2012 election. Never once in New York was I asked for ID, ever. He can't come in there, Dollar Store Obama, telling me, well, in New York, there's strong, but there's nothing. I have never, maybe it's just where I lived. I was never asked for identification when I voted in New York, ever. I voted in 2012. I voted in 2016. I voted in 2020. I voted in 2022. I voted in 2018. All the school board, I was never. Now, just because it didn't happen to me doesn't mean it didn't happen to everybody. But I knew a lot of people in New York. We started this loud majority movement up there, and thousands upon thousands of people. I don't ever remember hearing people say they were asked for ID. So I don't know what he's talking about. In New York, we have this requirement that we have voter identification. No, you don't. And if you do, it's not being implemented everywhere. That's number one. Number two, well, the Constitution says you have to be a citizen to vote. Yes. He called it a requirement, but then he said that the states can implement the requirement however they want. So then it's not really a hard and fast requirement. This strengthens that requirement and actually sets forth standards by which those requirements must be implemented and honored. Okay? Number three, and this is something that's been driving me crazy and people are starting to pick up on it, and I love it. Number three, and I talked about this when I filled in for Vince. Have you noticed the amount of people on the left saying they don't want ICE at polling places? You noticed that, right? Why does that matter if illegals aren't voting in elections? Do you get what I'm saying? It's like you don't put ant baits out on your yard, right? If you don't have an ant problem. You don't put ICE at polling. You won't have a problem with ICE being at polling places enforcing immigration law if people who were in violation of immigration law weren't showing up to polling places. They're admitting that illegals are voting. Because if illegals weren't voting, then you wouldn't have a problem with ICE being there because they're not going to find anybody who's breaking the law. They essentially admitted that. Now you have, so there's Hakeem Jeffries talking about the constitutional requirement there, which the Save America Act would strengthen and set standards across the country for that requirement to be implemented and honored with fidelity. You had Jamie Raskin saying married women can't get ID. Now let's go to somebody who I call the bucktooth Botox bandit of Buffalo. That would be Kathy Hochul. She's got the buck teeth. She's got the Botox. She's a bandit. She's stealing all your money. And she's from Buffalo. And we're looking very closely at giving the city of Buffalo to Canada. There's nothing good comes out of Buffalo except the wings. The football team can't win a Super Bowl. It stands for, boy, I love losing Super Bowls, the Bills, right? I have so many people in Buffalo who hate when I say that. Not just the Bills thing, but like the whole Kathy Hochul stuff. I have a whole I'm a Jets fan, so I would appreciate your sympathy and your pity. I promise it's not that bad. That's the worst part about being a Jets fan, by the way, is I have to be ready to answer. No, it's not that bad. I promise. It's okay. It's just football. I always say we're going to give Canada the city of Buffalo if they don't play ball with us because nobody wants to be associated with that city. I'm only kidding. I know it's, whatever. I'm only slightly kidding. Bills fans, by the way, are like born sideways. You're supposed to come out north-south. Those guys come out east-west. They're all screwed up. But here's the bucktooth Botox bandit of Buffalo, Kathy Hochul. This was the soft bigotry of low expectations. Remember, married women can't get IDs. Black men can't get IDs. Black women can't get IDs. Black people can't get IDs. And breaking news, apparently, if you are black, I don't know if we have any folks in the chat identify as black, you apparently don't know what a computer is. So I don't know how you're even on Rumble right now. According to Kathy Hochul, you've got no clue what this thing is. This. You're like, what is that? What? A computer. Okay. She says you don't know these things. Let's roll this one from the bucktooth Botox bandit of Buffalo.
Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them because when you have their diverse voices innovating solutions.
They don't know these things, she said. I want to open up the world to them. Could you just imagine, just for a second, if Donald Trump said something like that about black people? We love the blacks. They're great people. But it's a shame they don't know what a computer is. Do you know the avalanche of mainstream media pearl clutching that would ensue from a comment like that? How about what Newsom just did in front of a room of black people? I'm just like you. I'm dumb as shit is basically what he said. I got low IQ, SAT scores also. I can't read either. What? And the room laughed at him. I'm like, what? If somebody came, let me just tell you, if somebody came into a space that I was in, looked me dead in the eye, and say, you know what, Shawn, I'm just like you. I'm stupid. I can't read. Boom! Who are you calling stupid? Get out of here. I couldn't imagine what would happen. Take Trump out of the equation. If DeSantis said something like that, if Rubio said something like that, if any Republican of marginal prominence in this country said something like that to a room full of minorities, do you understand the meltdowns that the left would undergo? Oh, it's crazy. That's final clip here, and we've played this on here before, regarding blacks and identification, black people and obtaining IDs. This was a man on the street interview in New York City. New York City. Man on the street interview asking people of color. By the way, that's the dumbest term I have ever seen. How is that any different than, segregation South with the colored people? It's not. It's the same words. It's quite literally the exact same. They just threw an of in there. Once you understand that these are the same people, they've always been, right? It was like 1860s Democrats. If we free the slaves, who's going to pick our cotton? 2026 Democrats. If we deport the illegals, who's going to pick our avocados? Same people, same party, same mindset, same mentality. Let's go to the streets in New York City here and take a look. Apparently, according to the mainstream media, black people can't get IDs. But when you actually ask black people if they have IDs, they're like, yeah, I know how to get it. Let's roll it.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so we know what we need to carry around.
Everybody that I know have ID. That's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy camera?
I know, right? That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Would you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
No.
I know these sound like silly questions. You know how to get to the DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
I mean, if you're listening on Apple and Spotify, go to rumble.com/Bongino. You'll see exactly, what I just saw, which is a bunch of minority folks, people of color, whatever you want to say, all going, this is ridiculous. Of course I have ID. Why would, my favorite question throughout some of those, why are they saying that? That's my favorite question. These people, why do they think we can't get ID? Because they think you're stupid. It's the soft bigotry of low expectations. There is nothing more racist and offensive, if I may say so myself, than assuming somebody can't or is incapable of doing something as mundane as obtaining photo ID because of the color of their skin. There is nothing more racist than that. Nothing. Well, there may be a few things, but that's up there, okay? That's up there. Why do you think that person can't get ID? Because they're black. What does that have to do with anything? Well, apparently Gavin Newsom thinks blacks are stupid and can't read, so they can't get ID. how, it's not often that I'm at a loss for words. I say things all day long. Sometimes I say them in my voice. Sometimes I say things in the president's voice. Sometimes I dabble in other voices, right? You heard me do a little Bernie yesterday. And Nancy, some people like Nancy Pelosi. They think this is a good one. Nancy, she spits when she talks. You have to use windshield wipers. I forgot to bring my chattering teeth. I have you wind them up and the teeth go brrrr. That's like my Nancy Pelosi teeth prop back at home. But it's not stopping, by the way, what we just played for you, the fact that you had black residents in New York City, and I'm sure if you did this in other, minority urban city populations and said, "Do you have it? Why do they think I can't get ID?" That's not stopping us on Breitbart article, John Ossoff, laugh my ass off, right? It's not stopping him from opposing the Save America Act and citing race. Oh, it's Jim Crow 2.0. Well, that's funny because we asked a bunch of black voters in New York City if they have ID and know where the DMV is and have the ability to, obtain identification. They're like, yeah, why? It's not hard. I'm doing this. According to a Harvard-Harris poll, support for the Save America Act, 91% among Republicans, 55% among independents, and 47% among Democrats. The poll also found roughly 2/3 of Georgia voters said they would be more likely to support a senator who votes for the Save America Act. Ossoff has described the Save America Act as Jim Crow 2.0. Okay? Remember they tried this in 2022 with the new Georgia, the rules, right? It's going to suppress turnout. It's going to suppress minority turnout. And it had the highest turnout in ages in Georgia. MLB moved their all-star game out of Atlanta. And I think they went to Colorado that year, which has harsher voter ID restrictions than Georgia because the beast of the Southeast, Stacey Abrams, pitched a fit about it and threatened to eat somebody if they didn't move the game over. I think that's what it was. Stacey Abrams. With that gap, Harrison Butker can practice field goals kicking at her, huh? Num, 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 num. The beast of the South. I call it the beast of the Southeast. Folks, the media is trying to put this Save America Act out there as if it's some sort of racist piece of legislation. But when you actually get out of that bubble, that left-wing mainstream media, social media, echo chamber. That's the great Nick Kale on 1210 WPHT says echo chamber. Now, I make fun of him so much for saying that I said it. Terrible. Once you step outside of that bubble, you understand, right, that it's not a racist piece of legislation, and members of minority communities or married women or anybody else they say can't get ID, that they look at that statement as ridiculous. What we have to do, obviously continue to call your senators and continue to muster support. But if and when, and unfortunately I think this is going to fail, the Save America Act in the Senate, if and when this fails, that ship will have sailed in the Senate, at least for now. But what we have to do, okay, is be messengers of this information into the deli counter politics world, right? Into the real world. When you hear that a majority of voters in Georgia would be more likely to support someone who votes for the Save America Act, then if you're in Georgia right now and you know that Ossoff isn't going to support it, then you start educating voters that Mike Collins, who's running for Senate in Georgia, who's a cool guy, he does support it. And you educate people on where they stand. Because here's what the Democrats have. The wind that they have in their sails right now is orange man bad, right? Trump, Trump, Trump. Chaos, gas prices, affordability, even though they caused the affordability crisis. The Iran conflict. He said no new wars, and now we're dropping bombs on Iran, and, Maduro and all this, whatever it might be, tariffs. Okay? That's the only wind that they have at their backs to fill their sails. That's it. Their only talking point that resonates with people is Trump is bad, Trump is bringing chaos, Trump this, Trump that. Even though most of the chaos, if not all of it, is something that, even the Iran stuff, we're probably not in this situation if Obama doesn't send pallets of cash and Joe Biden isn't, sleepwalking and doing the don't policy. Don't. Don't. The mullahs were like, ha, okay. It's our job as voters, it's our job to educate other voters that the only thing the Democrats have is orange man bad. Ask them about their policy, their platform and what they stand for and what they want to implement, and it is unbelievably unpopular. Unbelievably unpopular. Open borders, men and women's sports, transing children without the parents' consent too. And the schools can go ahead and do this. They're doing this in secret. Oh, I saw little Joey playing with a Barbie doll, so Joey must be Jane, but we're not going to tell Joey or Jane's mom. It's disgusting. They support that. No voter ID. Not requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote. Proof, not just checking a box that says under penalty of perjury, because if you could do that, no one's going to catch you. Giving money to illegals, but not to our troops and our veterans. Illegal aliens with driver's licenses on the road can't read the road signs because I heard Vince talking about this morning. Can't read the road signs because they don't understand English and they're crashing and killing people on our roads. That's what the left stands for. Taking your guns away. Taking your right to free speech away. That's what the left supports. They don't support the founding principles of this country. They don't support the Constitution as it's written and the original intent behind the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights. They want to take the Constitution away because James Madison was a slave owner. Oh my gosh. We have to be out there as a grassroots army, whether it's online, in person, I'd prefer both, educating people on what they're voting for if they vote Democrat. If these people pull the lever for a Democrat, they're pulling the lever for socialism. They're pulling the lever for your free speech rights being eroded. They're pulling the lever for gridlock. You think there's gridlock in Washington now? Gridlock in Washington, open borders, pro-crime. These people are dangerous. They're the biggest threat to our freedom and liberty in this country. They have nothing to stand on. They have nothing, absolutely nothing, besides orange man bad serving as the wind that fills their sails. Educate people. I'm one guy. Dan is one guy. There's how many in here this morning? 45,000 in here this morning. If everybody, I don't care, you follow me, I don't care. If everybody in this chat this morning plays a role, and just start with one, we will have doubled our numbers. And then they start with one. And then they go to another one. And they go to another one. And that 10, 10, and 10 starts to take shape. Folks, if we just do that, we will never lose again. But we have to be committed to that process, to owning the process. And that's what I hope everybody can do. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up in just a second, but I want to touch on one really funny story before we go. Did you hear? Vince talked about this one yesterday. I had to chime in. According to this article in the New York Post, the new supreme loser of Iran. Listen, I don't care if you're gay or not, but it's not a popular thing to do. Homosexuality is illegal in Iran, okay? That's why, like, the Queers for Palestine people made me laugh. So this guy might be gay, the new supreme loser. President Trump was stunned to learn last week that the United States intelligence indicates new Iranian supreme loser, Mojtaba Khamenei, might be gay. And that his father, the late, he died like a dog, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, feared his suitability to rule the Islamic Republic for that reason. Apparently, according to this article, which is really funny, Trump could not contain his surprise and laughed out loud when he was briefed on the intel, according to sources. There are so many things that I'd like to say, alluding to what maybe Mr. Khamenei's diet consists of. But I'm not going to do it because there might be children who are listening, and I don't want to be, someone who contributes to the degeneracy of society that is wreaking havoc everywhere kids go to get information. Draw your own conclusions. Folks, it's that time. Haley's coming up in about a half hour. We're getting ready to go out and raid Steven Crowder. Please remember to follow the Dan Bongino Show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Search Dan Bongino Show. Hit subscribe. Anywhere you get your podcasts, you can do that. You can follow me everywhere on every platform. X is my main platform at Shawn, SHAWN _ Farash, FARASH. I do a lot of content all over the place. I love joining the Dan Bongino Show. I love all the work that we've done with Vince and producer Jim. Justin ran it all today. He held it down. Guy was great. Everybody's been great here. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, the thrill of a lifetime to be able to sit in this seat and bring you a couple shows the last couple days behind this microphone. The thrill of a lifetime, the honor of a lifetime. You could follow me on social media. I'd appreciate it. I do a lot of radio with 1210 WPHT. They're a great group. And LFA TV, of course, rumble.com/LFA TV, where my show runs 10 a.m. Eastern time. It's only 1 hour, and we upload the same thing, audio, to our podcasting platforms. Anywhere you get your podcast, just search Ungoverned. I'd greatly appreciate your support there. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please follow this channel, rumble.com/Bongino. You got Vince at 8 a.m. every morning, Haley coming up at noon. I will catch you on the flip side. Hopefully we get to do this again soon. Happy St. Patrick's Day. God bless you. God bless America. And thank you for your attention to this matter.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Carania,
Host of Vince.
host of Scrolling with Haley.
You can always catch my show right here
on the Bongino Report channel.
live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Noon weekdays. And if you miss it, no worries. The show will always be right here and anywhere you find a podcast. Thanks for watching.